Hello and welcome to Random Movie Time, the channel where we take a randomly chosen movie, no matter how good or bad it is, and watch the whole thing to the end and review it. Today's feature is the 2018 picture, The Biggest Little Farm, directed by John Chester and starring himself and his wife Molly Chester. This is a documentary about his farm. He was a nature photographer, nature videographer for many years, and that came in handy when making this documentary. And it's all about making a sustainable farm in California. What did you think of the movie, Shannon?
I really liked it. Well, first of all, let's just talk about how beautifully it was filmed. It was filmed like a nature documentary because John Chester was apparently a cameraman who would go and film nature documentaries all over the world. So that was his shtick, his thing. So that's how this documentary was filmed, and it was beautiful. And it had amazing, cute animals, which is really hard for me to resist. They had little sheep, and they had all sorts of ducks and geese and birds and pigs. They had all sorts of things. Molly was a chef, a private chef, and it was always her dream to be able to grow her own food. But they lived in apartments in LA, and they got this dog, a rescue dog, and it prompted them to form this idea of just getting a farm, because the dog was barking all the time, and they got kicked out of their apartments because the dog was too disruptive. So they're like, hey, let's just build this traditional farm. So they got 200 acres north of Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. 1 hour north, they said.
Was it 2? Oh, I thought it was 2, but okay. Anyway, north of Los Angeles. And they got in touch with this expert on traditional farming. His name's Alan York. And he basically guided them through the process, because they really didn't know much about farming when they started. They did research, obviously, but Alan York guided them through the process of creating this traditional sustainable way of farming. And they filmed it for 7 years, and eventually it just became sustainable. So they used natural methods. They used ground cover. When they got the farm, the soil was dead. And so they used these natural methods to bring it back to life, and it was successful. So I found, for the most part, I really enjoyed it. And because I'm interested in that sort of thing too. I'm really interested in growing my own food and doing that naturally. That's something I'd like to learn more about. So it wasn't like deeply educational. It was it was a little bit, but it really was more about how their trials and tribulations and their methods for doing things. They didn't go deeply into the methods, but they did discuss why they were doing certain things and how it affected the ecosystem on the farm. And that was really, really interesting. The only thing I didn't like about it was these are minor nitpicks, but I didn't like the trope they used at the intro, because they showed the very first shots you see are of the wildfires coming to the farm and them panicking and the animals panicking. But in the end, it really didn't affect the farm very much. It was they just used that shot, I guess, to draw you in, I guess. Yeah. I didn't really like that trope, but
Yeah, a lot of documentaries do that. So they start with the most dramatic scene in the documentary, and you think, oh, this is going to be a documentary about this farm burning down, or whatever.
Yeah, and they basically just showed that scene for a couple minutes or whatever at the end, and it was just like, oh, but our farm's fine. So I didn't really like that about it, but for the most part, it was really good, and I didn't like the outro song. But yeah, what did you think, Tommy?
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought it was really fun. Obviously, it was very beautifully shot. The guy knows what he's doing when it comes to nature photography. And it was just amazing how they made this completely sustainable farm using pretty natural methods. Sometimes they would have like a snail infestation, for example, and then they're like, well, what are we going to do about this without pesticides? And then they would get all the ducks from their duck pond to come and eat all the snails and all that. And so they always
that was cool.
Sort of figured something out. For a while it seemed like, oh, one problem would lead to another, like for the first 3 years. And then the more diverse the farm became, the more it all sort of started to gel and everything started working together. They did end up having to shoot a couple of coyotes. They didn't want to. They wanted to figure out other ways to get rid of the coyotes, but I think by the end of it, it was kind of sustaining, and they didn't have to use pesticides or kill too many animals or things like that. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was. I liked seeing how every aspect of the farm worked together. I mean, she said they were producing 500 pounds of stone fruit or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
70 varieties.
70 kinds of stone
fruit.
Trees.
I
stone
didn't even
fruit trees.
think there was such
I
a thing.
know. It was insane. And they had they were selling out of their eggs. They would bring their eggs to the markets and they would sell out of them.
Immediately, in seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, overall, I mean, and I guess the overall theme was just, sustainability and nature adapting. And at one point, John would step back and said, I'm panicking, running around trying to fix these problems when I just have to stand back and breathe and think about it. And that's when it came to him, wait, we have all these snails, ducks and geese eat snails. They like snails. Oh, we have all these mice. Oh, we have all these gophers, Oh, owls like gophers. Why don't we bring owls in? And then, coyotes like the gophers. Coyotes will eat the gophers, and all these little things. It was just so cool to see them progress like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I rather liked this little documentary. I thought it was really entertaining, and the cuteness factor was really high. Little sheep.
Yeah. Piglets.
Piglets. They're so cute. So, yeah.
All right. So, I guess that about does it. How many sheep out of 5 would you give this?
I'd give it 4 out of 5 sheep. And the only reason why I knocked it down a peg was because of that trope at the beginning and the song at the end. I didn't like.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty good. I'd give it 4.5 sheep. The music wasn't fantastic, and it was like they did some of those cliche documentary things that we're starting to see a little bit too much as documentaries get more and more popular. But generally speaking, very well shot, very entertaining, great concept. Just a great idea they had, and it made a great movie too.
Yeah, it was really great seeing that journey, starting from absolutely nothing, 200 acres of dead soil, and then in 7 years full of life, and the soil is rich and healthy again, and all the animals coming back, and it was just amazing.
Yep. All right, so that about does it, and I guess we'll see you next time on Random Movie Time.